All right, so it's going to be the Chiefs and the Eagles, right, Sean?
What that's how we're gonna start off the recording is the Chiefs and the Eagles.
No, I changed my mind. I think it's going to be the Bengals and 49ers, and they're going to do
Oh, goodness gracious.
the 1988 rematch of the Super Bowl. Well, Brock
Oh,
Purdy is going to be the reincarnation of Joe Montana. Joe Montana, and Joe Burrow is John Elway, basically.
no, it's Joe Montana. To quote the great movie, Waterboy. That was a hell of a soft open there, Felipe. I gotta give it to you. That was I don't know what that was.
Well, I can always go harder, but this is a kids show, right? No, it's a family show.
That's a
This
we should have Ice Cube on the next episode.
Dear Mr. President. Oh, that's I think I might pick that song for the music league. Anyway, we're too many tangents going off. I think the coffee's at maximum capacity, but we are live on a Sunday morning here on Championship Sunday for the NFL. But we're not talking football; we're talking baseball from Maine to San Diego. As Sean and I are back on a Total Basis podcast. Sean, how you doing this morning?
I don't know what's gotten into you. Is it the excess amounts of coffee,
I think it's the coffee.
Yeah, you are bouncing a little bit.
Yeah.
That open the Maine to San Diego jingle. This is going to be an interesting show. I'm just buckling up and holding on for the ride.
Cheers. But no, but you know, we're gonna talk about the Starbucks. You're a Starbucks guy?
It's Coke Zero in a Starbucks cup.
Well, that's even more disgusting. Come on, Coke Zero.
It's better than Diet Coke. Come on now.
Coke Zero is what my dealer sells me. I found out.
Hey,
It's been anyway. Cartel jokes aside, we are here to talk about some what would you call them? Sleeper picks,
people going too low.
Too low. Well, here's an interesting exercise that Sean did. So we're going to pick a player each. I do have backup players, Sean, in case we intersect somewhere. And we're going to start at a catcher. But basically, I will be looking at expert rankings and looking for infield position players outside the top 15 that are ranked by these so-called experts. And I'm going to find to see if I can get a player of somewhat of value or some upside or of interest. And on the Sean side, he's going to look at ADP and look to see catchers who are falling outside the top 15 as well. But he's going to look at it from ADP standpoint. So you know what we should have done? We should have flipped the coin for it to see who goes first.
Mythical coin.
Heads.
Tails.
Okay, you go first then, or you defer to me?
I don't know. So catcher. What if I told you? This is a very weird year for catcher. There's a lot of guys that I like that are in the top. There's a lot of guys I don't like at the top, and then there's some guys like in the middle that are so have some question marks. You know, per the usual for catchers in terms of health and playing time. But there's a guy all the way down here, 495 ADP.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
What if I told you?
Omar Narvaez.
This guy, yeah, shush. What if I told you this guy was joining a top 5 offense, is going to get the majority of the playing time, is left-handed, so he's going to face more of the platoon advantage. And before this year, the prior 5 seasons, he combined to hit 266, 351, 403, 107 WRC plus. The only wrinkle in all those years was the 2020 season, which we all know was Omar Narvaez sucked last year, not gonna lie. But before this 2022, he was one of the most consistent backstops, both offensively and defensively, especially after joining Milwaukee. Really improved the defense to stick behind the plate. I'm not expecting the 22 home runs from the 2019 rabbit ball season, but I do expect a slight regression to the norm for Omar Narvaez. So expect a 270 something average, solid walk rate, always around 9, 10, 11%. So around 340, 350 on base if you're in an on-base league. And he will be batting at the bottom of the lineup, no doubt. But if you're in a 2-catcher league or even a 1-catcher league, I've said this many times on the show before, Felipe. If I can't get somebody like Will Smith or all the other catchers that I've loved over the years, Danny Jansen, Tyler Stevenson, Alejandro Kirk. If I can't get one of those guys, I'm not picking a catcher until I have to, and I just don't want them to hurt me. And
Mhm.
we've had this discussion many times. Omar Narvaez, I don't think really hurts you. And the Mets will have a deeper lineup. Narvaez will likely be batting behind somebody like Mark Canha, high on base guy. So there might be more RBI opportunities for Omar Narvaez than you might think going into such a deep lineup. So yeah, Omar Narvaez is my pick, and he's basically free.
Yeah, basically he's free, but not free from your grasp. That's the thing. You mentioned Will Smith, and I think before we started the show, we talked about Ice Cube. Who's the better rapper, Will Smith or Ice Cube?
Ice
Wait,
Cube.
better question.
Ice Cube.
Who slaps harder? That's what I was trying to ask.
I don't know. Maybe we should have them go on Dana White's new like slap show. Oh, why isn't Will Smith the host of that? Oh, that was a big miss there. They should have had him be the game show host for it.
It makes sense because Dana White still got to be on the show after he slapped his wife around in Mexico. So if you're gonna tell me that they don't want the negative publicity that Will Smith would bring, I'm like, you still got Dana White on that show.
You're literally having people give themselves concussions on live TV.
That's basically the show. It's who wants to be a CTE patient. Who wants to donate their brain to science when they're dead?
Their child will be in a class action lawsuit, I'm sure.
It's the year 2023, and it's one thing to have the MMA around and boxing still around. I feel like there's some technique involved. This is literally, I mean, I guess you can argue that
there is some technique,
but you're basically trying to slap the crap out of someone and give them concussions. So anyway, it's what a world.
Your catcher now, Felipe.
So my catcher. So I noticed that after the top 15 are gone, there's a lot of interesting prospects that I'm very surprised that are being ranked this low. I mean, at number 30, you got Gabriel Moreno. You have Jose Trevino, who's not a prospect, but still was all-star caliber last year, even though his season wasn't that good. After the all-star game, it seemed like everything just went down the hill for him. Yeah. But and then you still got Joey Bart, who we're still kind of waiting around. But my guy is Logan O'Hoppe.
Yeah, I almost went with him. I almost did. Gets a good pick. I like it. Go ahead.
Oh, and I forgot number 28 was Francisco Alvarez, who was my backup, just in case you would have picked him.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure you probably were worried about that. No, I went with the other Mets catcher. And I was I didn't want to pick Narvaez, but I didn't want to pick Gary Sanchez. Ew.
Apparently nobody wants Gary Sanchez.
Yeah, and Omar Narvaez has been my guy at catcher for years.
Yep, I know.
He was always the guy I picked.
But Logan O'Hoppe is as safe of a catching prospect. I know I'm anti catching prospect, but I mean, I do argue that sometimes being an older catcher is more advantageous than being a younger catcher. I mean, we've seen it with examples like Travis d'Arnaud, even guys like Martin Maldonado. They get jobs forever just because they know how to utilize
the system.
Utilize the intangibles that they've gained. So in the top 10, let me go back here. In the top 10, it's a bunch of guys who are in the middle of their prime. So not a lot of older catchers, but it's just, if anything, it's going to be a bunch of late bloomers like Sean Murphy, even William Contreras. I mean, he's young, but it's also taken him a while to get to this point of his career after being such a highly touted prospect for the Braves as a catching. And then you got Yasmani Grandal. So, Felipe, why are you talking about both sides of your mouth? I thought older was better at catcher. Yeah, but now we're seeing a change in movement. And what's one thing I preach about on the show all the time? You got to adjust. You got to always adjust, make adjustments. Last year's sentiments are this year's lessons, lessons to be learned. And Logan O'Hoppe, as much as I am very questionable of catching prospects, is as safe of a catching prospect as you're going to see in this world. He's I don't know if he's going to be as good as Adley Rutschman, but I think we talked about this from last year, Sean. The plate discipline's there. He takes walks. He does a very good job of limiting his strikeouts. I mean, I see a guy that takes a lot of pitches, even though I don't have the stats in front of me, but just looking at his strikeouts per walks and all that, it's a guy who takes a lot of pitches and is able to still keep his strikeout levels below 20%. He had a decent run at 375 on base percentage last year in limited playing time with the Angels. And it looks like it's his job to lose in Los Angeles as well at only 23 years old. Catcher number
roster resource
19.
has him as the starting catcher right now.
I mean,
the only thing that worries me with Logan O'Hoppe is when you look at his numbers from this year in the minor leagues, which was all at the AA level, never played at AAA this year. He did play 6 games at AAA last year, did
21.
not go well. But the giant leap in walk rate, it basically doubled from 2021 to 2022. The power, he hit 17 home runs last year in 98, 104 games. He hit 26 this year in 104 games. It was such a dramatic breakout. Like, even his 2021 numbers when he played most of his games in high A, he was good, but he wasn't great. It was 270, 335 on base, 459 slug, 111 WRC plus. You'll take that from a catcher, especially depending on his defensive work. But this year it was like, it was so over the top. The walk, I mean, when he got traded to LA, he played about 30 games for them, 29 games, and he hit 11 home runs. Granted, actually, what's their AA would be? What, Texas? No. He was in Madison, where I'm about to move. He was with the Rocket City Trash Pandas, now that I'm thinking about it. But I don't know really the park factors on that ballpark yet, but he had 11 home runs in 29 games, walked 22% of the time. I don't know. It almost feels a little bit too good to be true. Like, he's not going to hit 306, 473, 673. He's not Barry Bonds. It's not happening. But even if he is what he was with the Phillies AA affiliate, 275, 392, 496, I still think that's very aggressive for what I think his skill set truly is. I think he's a little bit lower average, maybe an on base around 350. But I do think that the power gains are pretty legitimate. I think he could be a 450 plus slug guy easy. So maybe 20, 25 home run catcher here.
And ATC has him at 11 home runs, which, we all know, projections are more conservative than anything. But at a 321 WOBA, that puts him in the top 15 of catchers, which is what we're looking for. Can any of these guys outside the top 15 sneak into the top 15? And even though Logan O'Hoppe would be right on the precipice, if you're waiting that long for catcher, you might as well roll the dice and go with the upside. Other guys ahead of him are Yasmani Grandal, which I don't know, man. Yasmani Grandal went from being a top 3 catcher, top 5 at the worst.
He plunged.
Now he's barely in the top 15. I think everybody can see the dip, just like everybody was predicting when he signed a contract with the White Sox. In this instance, Older is not better at catcher. Let's see who else is on this thing. Salvador Perez. Well, Salvador Perez is
no thank you.
Yeah, but it's still kind of steady at the 29 home runs, and he's going to be designating being more DH than anything.
Yeah.
So still a lot of it's a lot of big names, but Logan O'Hoppe is right there with them. Yeah. And he's right there with Travis d'Arnaud, who I mentioned earlier as well. So
I mean, their ADPs like and which rankings are you looking at?
Expert rankings, consensus expert rankings. So
gotcha.
So I'm looking at the rankings. You're looking at ADP, and Logan O'Hoppe at number 19. I think you can easily move him up and reach for him, and get him ahead of guys like Eric Haas, Elias Diaz, and Joey Bart.
I think the issue with him is the closer we get to spring training, depending on how much he plays in spring training, I think his price could skyrocket. And at that point, I would just rather have Gabriel Moreno. Like, I think that's going to be the question a lot of fantasy managers ask themselves this year is, okay, I didn't get one of those top 8 or 9 catchers that I want. I'm just going to wait for one of the young guys, Moreno or Hop. And if that decision doesn't get made for you by one of them being drafted, I think that's going to be a question that a lot of people bounce around which one they want.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. And we'll see how that develops as this spring training, well, pitchers and catchers have to report first, but then spring training comes and we'll see how that goes. Let's move on to first base then. I guess I'll kick things off on my end. I hope that the shift and the fact that there's going to be more stolen bases really does improve the situation here, because I've never seen first base be so thin before. I was not excited. I'm usually excited to see if I could find someone outside the top 12, top 15. And the reason I do top 12, top 15, Sean, is because at that point, those guys should be fantasy starters, right?
Yeah.
At first base or at utility spots or at corner infield. So now we're just kind of looking to see, all right, well, who would be the next guy to step up? And in my experience, this position, first base, would go maybe 20, 25 deep, just because everybody can play first base.
Yeah.
Not this year. This year I struggled. So I went with Josh Bell at number 17, even though that's more of a, what do you call it? A household commodity.
Yeah.
I still went with him because he's being underrated. I think just based on these rankings that he's being underrated, despite the fact that ATC projections has him finishing with a WOBA of 345, which puts him 9th overall in their projections. The home runs are not there. Only 20 home runs, only a 439 slugging percentage. But I still believe in him. I mean, the guy is just too big and seemingly has the right tools to not be a legitimate power hitter. So maybe I'm hoping that a move to Cleveland and just getting regular playing time is going to make all the difference in the world for this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been the biggest Josh Bell fan. I've been pretty open about that. I don't like drafting him. I don't trust him. That's the thing. Because we all remember back in 2019 rabbit ball season, he had that month of really April and May, mainly May, where he turned into Barry Bonds, and it was like scary. And then if you tracked it from June 1st and did it all the way through, like, I think even the first half of 2021 when he was in Washington, he was like terrible. He was a negative WAR player. And then he picked it up at the tail end of 2021, went raging hot again. And then it was into 2022 this year again. Was still with Washington. And who did he get traded to? San Diego. That's what it was. This year, he dropped the strikeouts again, which was kind of impressive. But he just completely lost any power he had. Posted the lowest slugging percentage since 2018 at 422. I mean, it's crazy to think somebody that big and who we kind of associate with larger home run totals, 25 plus, only slugging 422 while posting, really good walk and strikeout numbers. And it wasn't like a huge ground ball spike. His ground ball rate actually dropped, was still above his 2019 numbers, but dropped from 2020 and 2021. If he's batting 4th for Cleveland behind Jose Ramirez, like roster resource has him right now, that's very interesting. I that kind of, because if they're trusting him with, his walk and his strikeout and his contact numbers to fit into that lineup, which they're definitely going on guys. They want guys that are hitting the ball. I might pick Josh Bell on a couple teams this year. I might hate myself for it in 3 months, but I might just do it because I trust Cleveland. Cleveland's one of those ones. Okay, when they sign this guy, keep an eye on him. It's like the Dodgers. It's like the Rays.
Yeah.
We talk about it all the time.
No, that's partially the reason why I'm intrigued by it. Like, well, there must be a reason why Cleveland wants him, and on that team, I don't think they're looking much. They're not looking for much power out of Josh Bell. If they get any,
they just want him to hit the ball.
They just want him to put the ball in play because that's what they're playing. They're playing, and no more shifts. Oh, by the way, it's interesting that Josh Bell and Brian Hayes are kind of they were both brought up by the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they're corner infielders who can't hit for power, but are supposed to have a high hit tool and be able to take their walks and control their strikeouts. So they're doing something wrong in the Pirates where these guys...
I was kind of shocked going back and looking at Josh Bell that he's never had a full season with a strikeout rate over 20%.
It's the
Pirates, and it's hard to believe because he's just such that big guy with a big swing. And I think it's part of it when he hits from the right side of the plate, being a switch hitter. I do think he shortens up a good bit, and he's not really I would need to go back and look just to confirm. but it's I definitely think he has a shorter swing from one side. The lefty is more like the I'm gonna rip it and run and try and
Yeah.
hit for power, but him right-handed is a pretty legit swing.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I just was listening to the CBS podcast, and they mentioned the same thing about Brian Hayes, about how, why are we still high on this kid? He's the ground ball rates are high, this, that, and the other. And like, huh. And now that we're talking about Josh Bell, it feels like it's the same conversation that we're having. But I mean, look at the guys behind Josh Bell: Jose Miranda, who's still kind of learning; Jake Cronenworth, whose big value is in middle infield and not first base; Luis Arias. If you want to go with a higher hit tool than Josh Bell with not as much power, then I guess you go with him. Joey Meneses. I am not picking a journeyman.
What, you don't want Frank Schwindel 2.0?
Hey man, great. Just like Frank Schwindel in 21, in 2022, great story from Joey Meneses. We spotlighted him when we did the was it a September call-up show or something like that, where we were spotlighting guys who were it was 3 guys, and Joey Meneses was one of those guys who was a lifelong minor league player, and great story. But no, Josh Naylor, no. Brandon Drury, hell no. Seth,
Hell
Seth Brown, no. Tristan Casas, maybe, but still, there's just so many things going wrong. Is that a segue?
Nope. Oh, I think my alarm's going off. You named my guy.
It's like I'm playing Minesweeper with you, or
that's what it felt like.
Or battleships. But yeah, and then just to finish my thought here, I mean, what, DJ LeMahieu? No, I don't want him as my first baseman. Trey Mancini, no. Miguel Vargas, no. Jarrett Walsh, no. Spencer Torkelson.
Miguel Vargas is interesting. Maybe not as a first baseman, more as at third base, but Miguel Vargas is interesting.
He is interesting, but it's still, you're still counting on a rookie to kind of man that position, and at that point, it's, I don't know, just Josh Bell seems to be the best of the bunch. And this is a position that used to be a lot deeper than this, and I now find myself not wanting to do anything with any other player past the number 17th ranked first baseman. But you are looking at ADP, and I already mentioned your guy Tristan Casas, so I guess you're optimistic about him.
Yeah, I've loved the minor league numbers for the last 2 years. He came up last year. Played in 27 games, 95 played appearances, had 19 walks to 23 strikeouts. It's a pretty good ratio. Hit too many ground balls. That worries me a little bit. 56% ground ball rate, but I'm not gonna freak out just yet, because basically for the last 3 stops, his AAA season this year and his last little bit of AAA in 2021. What was he in AA of 2021? He was at 42% ground ball rate, but was in the low 30s last year in terms of ground ball rate. Hits the ball really hard. It has been comped to a Joey Votto, which is always very, very interesting. And in the last years in the minors, he put up over 705 plate appearances, a 15% walk rate, a 20% strikeout rate, and while slugging 491. And the weird thing with Casas that people say is, if he wanted to be like just the Ryan Howard type hitter, he could be. They say the power is that legitimate, but he shortens up. He's one of those guys just like Votto, from the left side, 2 strike counts, gets like way up, almost looks like Jeff McNeil on a regular swing, where he's that high up on the bat. Just fights off at bats. Batted 280 with a 391 on base between AA and AAA the last 2 years. I really like it, and in that lineup, I think the Red Sox lineup could actually be better. I know a lot of people are laughing at it right now, and I join in from time to time as well, but I think that we might be like just overlooking them, because depending on how Masataka Yoshida does, Devers is Devers, Verdugo, Casas. Hey, Adalberto Mondesi might be a thing again after his trade to the Red Sox. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, really excited for Tristan Casas.
Adam Duvall is your center fielder, which is still crazy to me.
But think about it in that ballpark, though. Like, I don't like Adam Duvall. I hate his approach and his style of game. But in that ballpark, he could hit 35 home runs.
I mean, Boston, we talked about the history of baseball, like for a split second before we started the show. And Boston's are one of those teams that has a history of getting these big, burly, unathletic right-handed hitters who are supposed to take advantage of the
Hit
great
it over
monster.
that tiny wall. Okay, not
And
tiny wall, big wall, but very close to a wall.
and they call it a curse. I just call it a mismanagement, poor player evaluation, just incompetent leadership over there. And they're going, oh my God, excuse me. And they're going right back to that well. Where's Vince Mercandetti to make fun of them in live and on the air right now? Because I mean, he's been on that train. This is Boston. This is who's going to compete against the Yankees. Oh, by the way, Vince does not sound like that at all. In my mind, in my mind, Vince sounds like a coked out
this is getting worse
person when he's really a reserved, monotone guy in real life. But in my mind, every time I read any of his things, like it's more like, I can't believe Boston's doing like he has a like that when he really is. If you really look at it, Boston's not even good. I mean, Tristan Casas, are you kidding me? Is he the next
Well, you know what's
Castillo?
funny is if Casas was a Yankee, they would be just like all over him. It'd be all I mean,
no, I think he might have. I think he compared. Oh, the last time people were this high in a prospect, it was Rusney Castillo. How that worked out for you bums?
You can't even compare the two.
Oh, but Boston was all on that, and this is so you don't listen to fans, man. You do not listen to fans. Aren't you guys fans? Yeah, but we're superior. But don't listen fans. To us. We're superior fans. No, I thought. Wait, you mentioned Joey Votto and Tristan Casas. I thought Vinny Pasquantino, another Italian. I thought Vinny Pasquantino was the Joey Votto of this generation.
No, I think Vinny's more of. Let me think of the comp, and then I'll just blurt it out in about 15 minutes. There's one that there's one that I'm thinking of, and it's escaping me. So just continue.
Well, we continue to second base then. I was high on this guy last year. I think I might have spotlighted him on last year's one of last year's prospect shows, and I'm gonna go with Vaughn Grissom here. I checked this morning. Roster Resource does have him starting still. He is ranked number 17 among the expert consensus rankings at Fantasy Pros. So the number 17 is going to be a magic number, as you'll see, Sean. I have 3 guys who are ranked 17 on these lists, but for good reason. I mean, Vaughn Grissom has the upside, and just like Michael Harris's second, he was a very pivotal minor league player that the Braves called up last year. Some people would say it was out of desperation, and others would say, "Hey, that's just good." Player evaluation and knowing your organization and your farm system well. And Vaughn Grissom, you got 5 home runs and 5 stolen bases in 41 games out of him. So if you extrapolate that, we're talking maybe 15-15, right, Sean? Hopefully, middle infielder who can get 15 home runs, 15 stolen bases.
Still think he ends up in left field.
Regardless, as long as he qualifies, that's all I care about. On the up and up, ATC has him as a 14 home run, 16 stolen base guy, which you would think, that's not nothing special, Felipe. But a 335 projected WOBA, what would that rank him among second basemen? As I go ahead and look at the ATC rankings here. Here we go. Well, that was faster than I thought. So at 335, that's the 6th best second baseman projected in 2023, according to Ariel Cohen's system here. Guys in front of him: Ketel Marte, Jorge Polanco, Luis Arias, Brandon Lau, and Jose Altuve. Sean, buy or sell? Is Vaughn Grissom, can he be the 6th best second baseman this year?
I don't think so.
Why do you think it's so high, though, the 335 WOBA?
You said 335 or 355?
335. Oh. Yeah, Jose Altuve is the leader at 356. Again, these are just the 2023 projections according to ATC, Ariel Cohen's system here. But number 6 is high for a guy with limited playing time in his rookie season, and it will be probably getting all the plate appearances he can handle in his very, very first full season in the majors. What do you account to that there?
Yeah, I mean, he posted a 326 expected WOBA this year. ATC, you said 335. That does seem aggressive.
Which is weird because they're usually very conservative, and for just to give you another.
But it's like even Steamer's right there at 330. So
yeah, I was gonna mention Steamer. Even the bat 321 is. I can assume that 321. If I look at the bat, I'm looking at the bat right now. Woba, what did I say? 321.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a little bit better here. Vaughn Grissom, number 20th ranked overall, according to the bat. So, Sean, as you know, I use ATC. I've been using ATC the last couple of seasons or so, Austin and I, and that's been pretty. That system has been pretty good to me and helping me do my rankings every season. Plus, Ariel actually talks to me on Twitter, so I feel like
you guys are basically besties.
Oh yeah, we're best friends. Yeah, I'm still waiting for him. Well, anyway, but number 6 overall, with his skill set and just how exciting he is, a little bit of a power speed, decent combination. I cannot turn away. It's like a siren to me. It's
I feel the power is maybe a little bit more illusory than we are expecting here. He's posted really solid line drive rates. He does struggle against right-handed pitching. I would need to go back and dig more into the minor league side of that. But last year, here, where was it? Let me scroll down.
And I was going to add,
he had a 728 OPS against right-handed pitching, which was good for a 103 WRC plus, but he also struck out 25% of the time, hardly walked. He really did crush lefties, had a 161 WRC plus. I'm assuming he just crushes lefties. 31.5% line drive rate, very limited soft contact. I'm just worried about him against right-handed pitching, which we know is the predominant side. So yeah, I'm a little shocked that they're projected that high. I can see why, because he had such a good year just in professional baseball last year. But I do worry a little bit about the elevated BABIPs. He can mitigate some of that with his high line drive approach. But if right-handers kind of start to figure him out, could turn into a... I feel like the upside is starting everyday shortstop for the Braves, and he's batting like 6th. Downside could be he can't stick at shortstop. He's playing in left field and platooning with like Eddie Rosario. Like that I feel like
there's no way.
I mean, that's if he sucks that bad against, if he sucks against right-handers, like that could be that's the range. I think he's somewhere in the middle, but that's the range.
I cannot live in a world where a guy of Vaughn Grissom's caliber, a 22-year-old, is now needing to share at bats with Eddie Rosario. I mean,
hey, Eddie Rosario's getting banked. Marcell Ozuna's getting banked. He's got to play.
No, they don't. No, they don't. The Braves won a championship. I saw a
Braves fan say they should cut both Eddie Rosario and Marcell Ozuna and hope that somebody signs them, because it would save them $1.4 million. Because as all the other team has to do is pay the minimum, and that means the Braves don't have to pay $700K or whatever it is. And I thought that was so funny. I was like, yeah, you're gonna just throw $30 million down the drain, so you can have $1.4 million in savings.
People think the salary cap mentality is real out there, guys. Vaughn Grissom, out of curiosity, would have been 14th in steamer projections when it came down to WOBA. And for those who don't know, weighted on base average, basically, I don't know. I can't think straight, Sean. I think the coffee's wearing out. How would you best describe WOBA?
League adjusted offensive production made to look like batting average.
Yeah, thank you. They use linear weights for singles, doubles, triples, home runs, and I think even walks. And like Sean said, they scale it to look like a batting average. So either way,
expected WOBA even takes it, I think, a step further. It takes into account
the StatCast numbers and
your speed, your walk and strikeout numbers. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Well, anyway, that's my guy, Vaughn Grissom. Who is your second baseman of choice?
Mine is going to be Brendan Donovan. And he was the guy who came up for the Cardinals last year, was like Tommy Edman 2.0, guy you had never even heard of, was having a good year in the minors. And all he did as a rookie was post to 394 on base. And I know a lot of people, he only slugged 379. Oh my God, his on base was higher than his slug. The reason I really like Brendan Donovan this year, one, he played a bunch of positions for the Cardinals last year, so he's always going to have a spot on the roster. There's no real risk of, I mean, he could play every day at a different position. So that's always nice to have. And right now, the Cardinals lineup, let me pull it up.
I think he's batting 8th.
Yeah, that's where I'm going here. So right now, the roster resource has the Cardinals lineup as Tommy Edman, Wilson Contreras, Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, Brendan Donovan batting 5th.
Oh, wow. I thought it was 8th.
I don't think he'll bat 5th. I don't think he'll bat 5th. I think that'll go to somebody like Carlson, O'Neill, Nootbaar, who everyone's just raving about. I don't see Wilson Contreras batting 2nd. I don't know where the guy who runs roster, Jeremy, I can't remember his name.
Shoot.
Yeah, it's beyond the point. I don't
Martinez.
see how is Wilson Contreras batting 2nd in a lineup that features Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado? Like, I don't understand that. But I think that Tommy Edman, who we know Sean likes a little bit of Tommy Edman, but last year and really the last 3 years combined has a 316 on base. He's stolen 64 bases. Tommy Edman might need to be the 9-hitter. That would be, or even the 8-hitter. And if that happens, I think the very obvious choice for leadoff is Brendan Donovan, who, like I said, posted a 394 on base in his rookie year. And if you look back at his last 2 seasons in the minors, the numbers were very similar to his rookie year numbers. He batted in the minors last 2 years, 304, 397, 449. I think there's a little bit more doubles power in that bat that could raise the slug over 400. I know it's not a sexy fantasy profile, but if he scores 100 plus runs and you're getting him at, where is he going? 314, and he could potentially score more runs than anybody else at the position. Like, I think that would be an absolute win. And yeah, Brendan Donovan's really good. And he had a 13% walk rate, 15% strikeout rate in the majors. The last years in the minors, 11% walk rate, 16% strikeout rate. So right there at the same. He's done nothing but hit the last 2 years. I don't expect that to stop anytime soon.
My only concern with Brendan Donovan is the same concerns I have with Brandon Nimmo. Where are the counting stats, right? If you're playing Roto, and if he comes back and hits 5 home runs and 2 stolen bases again, I have to question why you even bothered selecting a guy like Brendan Donovan, aside from the fact that he qualifies in multiple positions, albeit there might be leagues where, things like on base percentage are taken into account, batting average are taken into account. So maybe that's justifiable. But me, home runs and stolen bases, are you contributing in those 2 areas in my book? And the highest projection I see here is from Steamer at 9 home runs and 5 stolen bases. And where's that ranking there, Brendan Donovan? Where is he ranked in ADP?
It was like 315, I believe. I just saw.
No, but what number second? What number second baseman?
34.
Okay, so I guess if you're drafting that late,
he's
doesn't matter,
behind a couple of names like Bryson Stott, CJ Abrams, Luis Rengifo, and ahead of guys like Nolan Gorman, Chris Taylor, and Kike Hernandez.
I thought you said good names.
Oh
it's
no,
it's a joke. It's a joke.
Oh, it sounded like one of those like "boy, are my arms tired" jokes because I just don't get it.
No, I don't know. That's a red flag. I mean, unless you can convince me that he's gonna get to 15 home runs, and maybe I can live with that. But I don't know. Just if you can't even get to double digits, that's like a concern of mine. But other than that, I can't argue with the other points you made about him.
I mean, he's definitely more of like an MI option if your league runs MI.
Even I would hope I can get a better MI option, but
I don't know.
It is a 34th second baseman, so I guess that's not too bad. You said someone CJ Abrams and who else?
Luis Rengifo.
No, before
And
that.
Bryson Stott.
Oh, Bryson Stott.
I mean, I would take Donovan over all three of those guys.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just anyway. It's I gotta tell myself number 34. So it's not too bad. Okay. By the way, the backups, if you're interested, in case you would have, if we would have intersected at first base, my backup would have been Jose Miranda, and my backup second baseman was Brendan Rodgers.
Ooh, I traded him in the new 30 team league I was in. I
How'd
thought he
that
was
go?
about to get traded to Miami, and I wanted to get out ahead of that before any sort of value cratered on him for leaving Colorado. So I traded. I felt like I got a good package back though, so that's no worries.
Who'd you get back?
I would have to look it up. Let me find it while you keep going. I want to say Warning Bernabel was one of them.
I just saw him recently. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, not in person. Sorry, not in person.
I was about to say, like, you saw him in person?
No, I was working on my prospect rankings for the upcoming season, and I'm looking at the Rockies. So basically, I'm just looking to see what minor league players, of a certain age, right? Because you know me, I don't get any 28-year-olds on my spreadsheets here when it comes to minor league players.
Yeah, so I traded him and the 24th pick in the second round of the upcoming first year player draft. And I got back Warming Bernabel, Calvin Ziegler from the Mets, and the second round pick, 15th overall. So I moved up 9 spots in the second round.
Calvin Ziegler, is he related to Brad Ziegler?
I don't believe so. He's
Okay.
Canadian. Actually, wait, isn't Brad Ziegler Canadian?
You tell me, man.
Oh,
you tell me.
goodness
That's the
gracious.
first name I thought about. That he's a side armor, right? The side armor.
Yeah, side arming righty, brown ball guy.
Yeah, look that up.
But
yeah, Warming Bernabel.
Okay, Brad Ziegler is not Canadian.
Also, they're not related. So Warming Bernabel is I'm looking at the Rockies farm system to see if I can get any minor league players added to my list. Think guys to look out for later in the year, and maybe even possibly add them to my big spreadsheet that Austin and I are working on. And man, first of all, the Rockies system sucks. By the way, it's putrid, just putrid.
It's not very good.
How are you this bad and I have a farm? You're basically the Orioles from like 3 or 4 years ago. I remember I used to brag about how miserable they used to make me around this time of year because I had to look at the roster. And anyway, but Warming Bernabel did show up, but he's a little bit still too young. I don't think he's going to be called up anytime soon. But yeah, it's funny that I just saw his name pop up last night.
Yeah, he was a pop up guy whose value really did come up a lot in the 2022 season.
And guess where you might have heard him on a particular podcast that airs live on Sunday mornings. Oh, this one. It was this one. That was my guy, my third baseman of choice. Oh no, it was my A affiliate player from last year.
He was.
Yeah, Warming Bernabel, the third baseman. I saw a video of him too. Fun guy to watch. Okay, shortstop. Mine's is easy. I went like the Rates and Barrels podcast used to say. I went oatmeal on this one. And once again, number 17 in honor of Mark Grace, the former Cubs legend, who now, if Scott Rowland's in the Hall of Fame, you might as well put Mark Grace in there too.
Stop it. Stop it.
I just complained about Brendan Rodgers not getting to 9 home runs or barely getting to 9 home runs. And guess who used to get to 9 home runs all the time? Mark Grace. Punch and Judy first baseman. That's your backup. But he led the 90s in doubles and in singles or in hits. No, he was the singles. He was a what do you call it? A bachelor. That's what he was. He was the most available bachelor in Chicago for many years.
Oh, goodness
anyway,
gracious.
The deputy mayor of Wrigleyville. Nico Horner is my guy. Speaking of the Cubs, Nico Horner is my guy. And again, I went full oatmeal. The other guys behind him did not impress me at all. And again, shortstop.
What, you don't want Javier Baez or Jorge Mateo or Tyro Estrada?
I was thinking about it, but I'm like, nah, I think Nico Horner is a safe pick. And if anything, he's projected to get to 18 stolen bases. So getting a guy that late who's not going to hurt your batting average too much or your on-base percentage too much. You can't even say, well, he's a terrible infielder, therefore there's a chance that he might get benched or anything like that. No, he's a very good infielder. and therefore he's going to get all the playing time he can handle. So that's a step in the right direction. I'm looking for Nico Hoerner. 18 stolen bases, a guy who struggled to get to 8 home runs. So I'm complaining about Brendan Donovan, but I'm championing Nico Hoerner, but at least he'll get you to 18 stolen bases. Limits his strikeouts, knows how to take a walk if need be, or at least in relative terms. I know 6.4% is not that high as a projection, but 6 divided by 12%, that's about 50% walk to strikeout ratio, which in today's game you'll take. Most of these guys are not doing that anymore. 278 batting average is a projected, which is pretty high compared to everybody else around him. And when you sort the projections by WAR, he's literally the highest except for Tim Anderson, and Tim Anderson comes with his own baggage, mostly injuries. And
that's the comp there, I think, between Nico and for Nico is like a Tim Anderson.
The comp?
No. Yeah, I think that's the play style.
The play style? No.
Like that's the guy. I mean, good average, a little bit of speed.
Tim Anderson was much more explosive than Nico Hoerner.
Tim Anderson might hit for a little bit more power.
It's a lot more power in his prime.
Yeah, but there's I think some underlying data showing that Nico, it was like at the end of the year that his power numbers were kind of on the rise. I need to go back and dig through it, but it was like his hard hit rate and fly ball line drive EV was like climbing. I want to say I heard.
Well, if it's like, recent Tim Anderson, the guy who can't stay healthy to save his life and is getting into fights with everybody and wants to be the face of baseball, but with none of the results, then maybe I'll agree with you. But Tim Anderson, when he wasn't in the middle of all that nonsense, he was a pretty explosive player. Like I think
career high home runs of 20.
I mean,
and is run more like 17, 18, 17.
Yeah, Nico Hoerner wishes he can get that high.
I think Nico Hoerner can hit 15 home runs.
He will never get that high. We've been waiting on Nico Hoerner.
He's never going to hit 15 home runs.
We've been waiting on Nico Hoerner to
write
do
it
something
in
like
stone,
that.
People. Write it in stone. Nico Hoerner will one day hit 15 home runs, and Felipe will owe me something. I don't know what. To be determined.
We've been waiting on Nico Hoerner to do anything of that sort for ages now, and he's never come close to that.
Felipe will owe me a favor to be named later.
All right, so look at the careers. Since 2020, Tim Anderson, a lot more home runs. Although
he's also played a lot more games.
A lot more games, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let's go to the rate stats. A higher ISO power, although 148 versus 103, but you'll take the 148 any day. 309 batting average for Tim Anderson. Nico's not even there. 342 on base percentage, and Nico Hoerner's at 336. 457 slugging percentage. Nico Hoerner can't even sniff 400. 799 ops for Tim Anderson, 716 for Hoerner. That you can't even say that the plate discipline's the same, because Hoerner is much more patient by comparison, while Tim Anderson just swings at everything.
Right here. Keep talking.
Contact rates are higher. Contact rates are much higher for Nico Hoerner, despite the fact that he doesn't swing as much as Tim Anderson. And if you want to look at the rate at the StatCast numbers, I mean, hard hit rate advantage Tim Anderson, barrel rate at advantage. Oh, we talked about barrel rate before. Yeah. Nico Hoerner barely gets one a year, let alone the same as Tim Anderson. Barrel rate, Tim Anderson, 7.6% versus 2.2%. They're not the same. They're not the same.
Okay, last 2 years. Tim Anderson.
I just did that 2020 versus 2022.
You were using 2020, I thought.
Yeah, 2020. That's 2 years.
No, I'm using 21 and 22.
Oh well, see, that's the problem, Sean.
No, nobody cares about 2020 We all know that was Mickey Mouse. That was Mickey Mouse.
Always going with the small sample size.
2020 was Mickey Mouse. I just wanted to see this because I knew you were using 2020. Yeah, so roughly same amount of games. Granted, Nico had way less plate appearances, by like 200. Tim Anderson 306, 338, 440. Nico Hoerner 286, 341, 400. I think that the slug can come up a little bit on Nico, because we saw that happen even this year, where he went from 369 to 410, and he sacrificed a little bit of walks, but he struck out less. He swung more. I don't know. I still think Nico's trending up, and I think that Tim Anderson is like that's what Nico will be.
I don't think so.
I think so.
I think he'll be lucky if he gets that high. We've been waiting on that to come to fruition. It has.
What was like Tim Anderson like his first few years? There it is. That's what I needed to look at. Tim Anderson in his first 3 years. Yeah, 258, 286, 411. Yikes. Yeah, he only slugged 411. And he
See
hit
here.
46 home runs in his first 3 years. That's kind of impressive for being that bad of a hitter.
From 2016 to 2018, Tim Anderson,
Yeah.
3% walk rate, 26% strikeout rate. Like right there is not even the same. It's nowhere near the same as Nico Horner. But it comes with a 153 isolated power, which Nico Horner can barely get to 100. See, those production numbers, those rate stats are
Hey,
closer to.
Nico Horner in his first 20 game sample size had a 154 ISO.
Again, why are you always going
I'm just doing this to mess with you at this point.
But anyway, the rate stats for Nico Horner are much closer to Brendan Donovan than they are to Tim Anderson. That's why, yeah, Nico Horner wishes he could be as explosive as Tim Anderson.
But
Tim
I mean,
Anderson,
there has to be a legitimate skill change here, because he only had before the season 8 professional home runs, 8 in all the minor leagues and major leagues.
Who, Nico Horner?
Yeah, and then this year he hit 10.
And that's probably the upside for him. That's 10. Listen, you don't draft Nico Horner I'm not
drafting
round.
Nico Horner for home runs.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying you're not drafting. I mean, Nico Horner at this point of his career, he's oatmeal. Like Eno Saris, he's oatmeal. He's a safe pick. He's a safe pick because everybody is just too risky. So you go with Nico Horner and take his 18 stolen bases and go to bed comfortably at night that you are going to get 18 stolen bases from a punch and Judy hitter. So yeah, but Tim Anderson, what if his rate stats are not as high in his first 3 seasons of his career? It's because he was a very raw, athletic, just swing from his heels. Yeah, if anything, Tim Anderson and Javier Baez were the same guy for many years in terms of the swinging rates, the lack of contact.
Anderson didn't have the raw power though.
Inconsistent rate stats. No, true that, but still, a lot of it had to do with him just not being able to connect with the ball because he was just didn't have an approach at the play. He was just but no, Nico Horner's not that. I think Brendan Donovan and Nico Horner are pretty much mirror images of each other. So that Brendan Donovan really doesn't swing at many pitches. Like he's extremely patient to a fault there. But Brendan Donovan is Brandon Nimmo. Anybody named Brandon, they're all the same guys.
Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. All right.
That should be my team name for next year, but make it like Brendan / Brandon / find another spelling for Brendan.
Nico Horner. With an I, Brandon with an I.
Yeah, or like an AN at the end instead of an EN. ON.
Brandon, the Don of brands.
Yeah, well, that's what Nemo is, Brandon. And then what's his name? Donovan is Brendan. Oh God.
Donovan, he's playing in the WBC for a different country, right? Or am I dreaming? No, he's from Germany. Was that what it was?
No, well, he was born in Germany.
That's what it was. Okay,
but it's Lars Nootbaar that's playing for Team Japan.
Yeah, I know that much. I thought the Germans were in the WBC for some reason.
No, I do not believe they are.
Well, let's move to your shortstop. By the way, my backup was Jeremy Pena, just in case.
My bet you should have known I would have never picked Jeremy Pena.
You never know.
My shortstop, he has no reason to be this slow. I know some people would be like, yeah, he does. It's Carlos Correa. Why is he behind Willie Adames, Gunnar Henderson, Tim Anderson, Carlos Correa? And he's right in front of Jeremy Pena. I mean, within like a round of Jeremy Pena and Ahmed Rosario.
What ranking is that?
17th.
Wow.
Carlos Correa is not the 17th ranked shortstop. It's just not.
That's crazy.
I know he's basically a 0 in stolen bases. I get it. I will find stolen bases elsewhere if I can get Carlos Correa as my shortstop. I mean, had a 140 WRC plus season last year, 291, 366, 467. Hit 22 home runs in 136 games. We all know where the ball was last year, though. There'll be some adjustments, and he only had the 64 RBIs. That seemed a little bit out of his control. He actually hit pretty well with men on base. That the spots in front of him offensively were kind of a rotating door, with Byron Buxton sometimes being there, And then it was somebody completely else. Buxton was on the bench. Buxton was hurt. But yeah, to me, Carlos Correa should not be going behind Willy Adames. I know Willy Adames has a little bit more home run upside, but the average is much lower, runs much lower. Gunnar Henderson, I understand, is the sexy pick. I like Gunnar. I'm not drafting him over Carlos Correa, though. And Tim Anderson, well, we just talked about Tim Anderson. So I guess if you're just desperate for steals, you'll take those guys over Carlos Correa. But like, it's not like Carlos Correa fell off. Carlos Correa was still very good. And he's 17th in shortstops. I don't get
that's
that.
insane.
Yeah. I mean, I would take him over probably a few guys even in the top 10. Like Carlos Correa or Xander Bogaerts. You probably give the edge to Bogaerts just because the guys right around him in the lineup. But is there really a difference in 2 rounds between that? I don't know.
I'd be concerned with Carlos Correa's health, although I think Bogarts also has some health issues of his own.
Yeah. Like Bogaerts isn't, completely spotless there either. So,
and he's going, and we mentioned before, he's going to San Diego, which I just heard on the CBS podcast that San Diego ranked as one of the lower ranked home run hitter ball.
Yeah.
What do you call it? One of the least friendly places to hit home runs in. So Petco, even with them moving fences in, what was it, 10 years ago? It's still.
I was about to say, I thought you were saying they were about to move him in again.
No. They moved him once already in. I don't know if they did it again since then, but I remember like 10 or so years ago that they did move it in. That they did move them in, and you're still getting the same results, the same struggles is what I'm trying to say here. All right, so Carlos Correa is your shortstop. I like Carlos Correa, but yeah, the injuries, it's very concerning. But yeah, there is something to be said about him or Xander Bogaerts, and that's a coin toss for me at this point.
Yeah, or like picking O'Neal. Like I get why people are picking O'Neal Cruz. Don't shout at me, people. But like, why would you risk? You really have to like the upside of O'Neal Cruz. Like you have to think he's reaching that 80th percentile to pick him 20 plus spots ahead of Carlos Correa. Like, I don't know. It's just mind boggling. I understand that stolen bases are valuable and there are only so many of them out there. But I think this year of all years will be the year to not really lose your mind over stolen bases. Because like we said before the show started, stolen bases are going to go up for everyone this year.
Maybe even batting averages too.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, could be even batting averages. So it's just one of those, like, I'm not going to behold myself. I've never really done that with stolen bases. Like, I always made sure I got a couple of, like, guys that I really liked for stolen base, Miles Straw last couple of years and guys like that. But I'm not going to behold myself to stolen bases this year. Like, I just got to pick the best guy.
Speaking of the shift, I saw an interview with Cody Bellinger when he was at the Cubs convention. And he basically did explain that, all your life you hit a ball up the middle and that's always been a hit. And now it's not it's not a hit anymore. Like Justin Long wannabe over here. Justin Long from Idiocracy. I don't know if you ever like what I do here is like,
but at the same time, it's like, I know they say that like the shift, and I agree, the shift killed balls up the middle. Like what used to be a hit for 50 years was no longer a hit. And they say, but I don't think these rules really fix that because all it says is 2 guys have to be on each side of second base. Well, the shortstop can still be standing behind second base, like 1 inch to the right of it, and he's still playing up the middle.
Yeah, those guys have range, man.
Yeah,
I mean, we talked about Tim Anderson. I know he's getting older and he's probably not the same player he was like 5 years ago, but Tim Anderson I still think he can gobble up some. Oh, no, wait, hold on. Wasn't Tim Anderson one of the worst rated shortstops defensively?
This year, probably. Like he's been trending heavily down.
Oh man, never mind. Yeah, I thought there was still a little bit of athleticism, but yeah,
maybe the shift kind of helps, or the lack of the shift kind of maybe helps some of that. I don't know.
I don't know about that, but yeah, Cody Bellinger. I left the middle, so it hits all my life. Now, if I pull the ball to the right side and I get it to the hole, it's no longer a single.
Okay, he was only -2 last year, which obviously isn't good, but it's not like killing you.
But Bellinger then mentioned something about, but now you're grounding out to right field, and it's in the grass. But now you're grounding out to Manny Machado in right field. I mean, what is that? I mean, you know what I mean? So I think it's going to help a lot this year. You know, and if anybody needs help, it's Cody Bellinger.
Yeah.
All right, third base. Let's start with you. Who's your guy?
I picked Alec Boehm.
Ooh,
And it's like he wasn't even bad, and he's not really going crazy low. Oh wait, I goofed. Apparently, that was not there earlier. They have him as the 14th ranked third baseman. He was not 14 when I looked earlier. Oh, okay, crap. Okay, we'll just pick Yandy Diaz, the man of the hour. Just got an extension. It's basically Alec Boehm, higher on base. Dude's getting paid. He's no longer a platoon risk or whatever.
yeah, we'll see about that. I'll believe it when I see it.
It's like the really funny thing, with these flurry of Rays extensions, Jeffrey Springs, Pete Fairbanks, now Yandy Diaz. The one I really laughed at was when they gave Pete Fairbanks the deal for 3 years, $12 million. They said Pete Fairbanks is closer number one. No discussion. He's getting paid. And I was like, I just started laughing, and I was like,
hey, don't lie to us, man.
I was like, okay, this is more reason for them to use him whenever the hell they want to.
But did you listen to Eno Saris on a couple of Rates and Barrel podcast episodes ago, where for the last couple of years there's been an outcry from the sabermetrics analytics or the smart baseball community, for lack of a better term, I don't know, suggesting that you guys shouldn't be using your closers, your best relievers to be closing out games in ninth inning when the high leverage situations start out in the sixth, seventh, or eighth inning. Eno Saris on the last couple episodes ago, he says it turns out that the highest leverage situation is the ninth inning. So that's why it turns out the best pitcher should be pitching in the ninth inning, because no matter what, that's going to be the highest leverage situation in any ball game. So I applaud the self-awareness there, and not just from Eno Saris, but it seems like when Eno Saris talks, it just seems like he's talking for everybody else in that community. So I appreciate that, but make up your minds.
Okay. So I'm not sure I 100% buy into that. I'm sure in terms of like win probability added, there is a higher variation of, in the ninth inning, because you're down to your last 3 outs, and each one of those outs or not outs drastically alters your chance of a win. Yeah. But to say that the ninth is automatically the highest leverage, no. I can't get behind it. I can't. Universally, I just can't get behind that.
Well, let me ask you, Mr. Flannery. Mets are down right middle of the season, right? Let's call it July 29th. No, that's too late. Let's call it June 7th, June 17th, 2023.
We've had a lot of 17s in the show today.
I know. It must be my favorite number or something. Yeah. Mark Gray should be in the Hall of Fame. June 17th, 2023, right? And the Mets are up 5-3 against the Braves. It's a very important game because now these games matter, right? Matter more than usual because you don't get the 18 games you used to. Now it's less now. Okay, it's a very important game. You want and you're trying to win this series from the Braves. Sorry, it's the 7th inning. The Mets are up 5-3. The bases are loaded with 2 outs. Who do you bring in?
What inning was it again?
The 7th.
The 7th.
And Ronald Acuna's up at the plate.
I don't burn Diaz. I'll bring in either one of Ottavino or Robertson, whichever one he has worse career numbers against.
So there you go. The 7th inning is not the most important inning. It's the 9th inning because even Sean will not bring in Edwin Diaz to seal the game for him.
Because you could, but there's 2 outs. And unless you're using Diaz to go back out there for the 8th, it's kind of a waste, I think. And I think if you only need 1 out, you can rely on somebody that's not your best reliever.
Okay, so if there's no outs, right, and then you
if there's no outs, then you bring in Diaz. Yeah, I would bring in Diaz in that chance.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that when Edwin Diaz is brought into the 6th inning to preserve a game. And
you said 7th inning.
Well, I'm just saying. I'm going into another example, right? But and he goes into the 6th inning, and now Mets fans are crying. Why is he being preserved for the 9th inning? Who's gonna get the saves now? Because at the end of the day, I mean, shoot, that's why Aroldis Chapman, refused to pitch any other inning besides the 9th inning, because number one, that's where the big bucks are being made, right?
I need my saves, bro.
I need my saves, bro. Number two, you're starting with bases empty as opposed to those high leverage situations that we talked about. And I mean, we saw with the Cubs, and he went to the media and said that he wasn't comfortable. Then he got called out by Joe Madden and said, "Oh no, I never said that. It's lost in translation. No, I'll do 6, 7, 8, whatever the Cubs need. That's what I'm here for." And he struggled mightily anytime he was brought in outside of the 9th inning. Best relief pitcher in the game cannot get into the game when the situation calls for him in desperate need. He almost butchered a couple of games in that World Series run against the Giants and against the Guardians. And say what you will about Joe Madden mismanaging that club, the bullpen was in shambles by the time it got to October.
The whole Carl Edwards Jr.
Pedro Strop
crossing himself, coming off the mound, pointing up to the sky after he had just loaded the bases.
Well, he did his best.
Thank God I'm out of here, man.
Well, I'm getting the hell out of here. But again, there's a reason why these guys, they're very peculiar, and it's fresh on my mind because Austin and Kevin Miller did a podcast where they're screaming for some sort of what do you call it? Some sort of justice for relief pitchers and throughout the history of baseball, especially from moving on forward, because they're important, right, Sean? We talk. This is a podcast that we talk about relief pitchers nonstop, right?
Yep.
And even then, we're like, well, Edwin Diaz should be getting his saves. It's nice that these guys can be trusted to come into the 6th, 7th, or 8th inning, but I would prefer a guy who is guaranteed a 9th inning spot. We just made fun of Peter Fairbanks because he can't get the closer role in Tampa Bay. So I don't know. Soapbox. That's all it was. Soapbox.
I feel like a lot of it is, especially when you think of some the greats, it's almost like the theatrics of it sometimes are more than just theatrics, where it's okay, if you can go into the 9th inning and you have a Edwin Diaz or you have a Mariano Rivera, you have a Heath Bell, Trevor Hoffman. Oh no, Heath Bell was probably not the name I meant to say there. No, he was good.
But there was a song. He
had what, Hell's Bells, I think.
Baseball is the WWE. Baseball is WWE.
And it's one
all
of those
scripted.
Once those guys enter in, you hear the song, it's almost like a psychological warfare thing, where as long as you get through 8 innings and you're going to face this guy in the 9th, it might as well the game might be over. Why are we going out there?
It's only,
do you save that as that little bit of, to limit a chance of any sort of comeback? You use that guy in the 9th inning just to stomp him into the mud.
And John Axford used to have New Noise by the band Refuse, and they got the Milwaukee Brewers crowd going. It got me going because I love that song, from that band. But it's psychological warfare until it stops working.
Yeah.
I mean, these are Major League Baseball players. And sure, you could see it in their faces when all hope is lost. They're only human. But more often than not, these guys are built for those moments.
Yeah. And the fact that I think it's a 162 game season, I feel like there is more of it's easier to get your opposing team to check out mentally if you get a big lead or you have the lead and you have your closer ready to come in. I think it's easier for the opposing team to just be okay, we'll get them tomorrow. Yeah, because there's so many games. It's a very interesting psychological dynamic.
But at that point, it's not even psychological warfare with the big entrances anymore. It's just a team that's, what, we'll fight to live another day. We'll get you guys tomorrow. Or that's it just sounds more routine than psychological warfare to me. But yeah. I digress. I mean, these are professionals. They've been playing thousands of games all their lives, and we see comebacks happen against the best pitchers all the time. Yep. These guys are not infallible. At the same time, though, it really does bring up the question as to how else can we evaluate these guys who are only in this game for such a microcosm of a minute or of a matchup. And the more I think about it, the less answers, the more questions I have. Less answers, more questions. I know Fangraphs has something called meltdowns and shutdowns, but again, the sample size is so small that it's not even worth
And the
making
fact
anything
that
out of
it's
it.
like their numbers, like the traditional numbers, seem to change so drastically based on one outing. Like when you're watching it live, like, oh, I remember this guy 2 days ago, he gave up 5 runs. But a lot of people don't think about why he gave up, why his ERA went up 2.5 runs. But they'll see his ERA and it'll be like 4.5, and they'll be like, "Oh, this guy sucks."
Yeah.
And it's like the outing before when he came in, it was under 2. Like it's a very weird way. I feel like more of the casual baseball observer will look at relievers and just be like, okay, it's a guy that's not good enough to start. And I don't think that's it at all.
And then to finish up the thing, I mean, saves is such an arbitrary, and it was
Yeah.
literally created by oh, what the hell's his name? Well, it was created in the '60s just because this one guy who ended up being, I think it was Jerome Holtzman, who ended up being Major League Baseball's official historian before he died, uh, decided we got to give these guys credit who can go out there and get the last 3 outs of the game, and that's where the save comes. And it has been evolved, and we see that the relief, even pitching in Major League Baseball, has evolved to where it is now, where everybody's specialized, where starting pitchers don't see lineups more than 3 times, otherwise they get exposed. And so that's where it comes from. And yet we still have not come up with a statistic besides holds, which is so random and so arbitrary in itself that we don't know if we can rely on it or not, but it's the only thing we got going to evaluate, to give accounting stats to some of these middle relievers who deserve some shine. But even then, we're like, yeah, but who cares about holds, right? And nobody
Yeah, I
cares
mean,
about
it's like
holds.
the weird thing, and like reliever war isn't really the best way to go either, but it's a somewhat better description because you go and you look at the top 10 of relief pitcher war last year. Granted, the guy that's number 10 was at 1.7, and there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 relief pitchers with a 1.7 war. But you had number 1 Diaz, 32 saves, Clase, number 2, 42 saves. Devin Williams, number 3, 15 saves.
And
And then
F4?
Evan Phillips, and he had 2 saves.
No,
Oh,
F4.
yes, F4. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you gotta,
Yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
because
Yeah, and Evan Phillips was number 4. I thought that's what you were saying. I was like,
no,
yes, we are on
I,
number 4.
I'm so sorry. No, I was one. If it's B war, F4,
No.
F4 will account for a leverage situation. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Evan Phillips was right there tied with Devin Williams at 2.2, and he only had 2 saves. AJ Minter, number 5, he had 5 saves.
Well, how many holds?
Yeah, that's the thing. I'd have to go back and
Yeah, I know.
look at
Go
the
ahead.
amount of
I'm
holds. But
joking.
it's like it's a very interesting like way of it. That seems better to judge than, but it's not even, that's the advanced analytic that's supposed to clear up all the misconception around the random arbitrary stat like saves, but even it doesn't really paint the whole picture. It's a
There
weird
has
sport.
got to be a combination of appearances, number of outs you can get, outs and innings. They're basically the same thing as far as I'm concerned. Strikeouts, things of that nature. But
And
again, it
factor
just,
in like inherited runs maybe, or
left on
like,
base percentage or something to that effect, without resulting in being such a luck based statistic. But you know,
yeah, Evan
because,
Phillips wasn't even tops. Oh, he was 21st in holds. He had 19,
yeah, so that's
which,
the thing. Even the holds, they
yeah, like
don't.
he didn't have a lot of saves. He had a good amount of holds. He didn't have a lot of holds. I
Yeah,
mean,
one of
AJ
the
Minter was the leader with 34, Boxberger with 29. But
it,
Evan Phillips was one of the best relief pitchers in baseball.
one of the best relievers in baseball, and there is no statistic that there's no counting stat that shows how valuable he is to the LA Dodgers.
Yeah.
That's the problem that I have. And that's why I love, again, this is the show that we shed the spotlight on these relief pitchers, because there's a lot, way too many to account for, of good relief pitchers that will just go out there and just shut it down for your team. And then they got to hand the ball over to the 9th inning guy, because that's
Yeah.
just the way it works. And I think it's a crime that these guys don't get the shine. But again, it has to be some sort of combination of rate stats with how many outs you can get and how many times your name is called to go into a game. Anyway, we're my third baseman, right? So you pick Yandy Diaz, so this is why I have backup plans.
Yeah.
And Jordan
I
Walker.
love how like I picked Yandy Diaz just like on the whim because Alec Boehm changed spots magically on me. And we talk about the Rays and it's magically becomes about relief pitchers.
That's the most, what do you call it? The most revolutionary team in all of baseball, the Tampa Bay Rays. and you're still feeling their effects. So now we got openers, we got piggybacks, we got the Dodgers winning World Series thanks to Andrew Friedman, our Lord and Savior, Andrew Friedman. Even though I think he might be Jewish, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good guess there.
I don't care. He walks on water. He turns water into wine.
Oh God.
Chicken shit into chicken shit sandwich.
So
it was Jordan Walker, Texas Ranger, number 28. I'm going for the upside guy for the St. Louis Cardinals.
If you had to pick between Walker and Brett Beatty, not like I know Walker probably has actually they have very similar chances at opening day or major league playing time, I think.
Oh boy, you got me on the spot because I was just about. I haven't done the Cardinals and the Mets yet. They were next on my list but I think I would have to go with Jordan Walker.
Okay, they're close to me. They're really close.
Colin Mitt was biased, but I think the other thing is, see, I got to be careful here because the Mets, even though they have all those veterans and they're in win now mode, there's a good chance that Brett Beatty might get called up and
take over for Escobar. And Escobar goes to the bench. Yeah. I think Escobar goes to the bench.
But
if Escobar's your first bat off the bench as a switch hitter, you're in really good shape.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But that's not the issue. The issue is, do the Mets have the patience to see Beatty? And not that the Cardinals are any more patient, but the Cardinals are also just as impatient to have a revolving door in the roster at first base, DH, or even, I don't know, anywhere outfield.
It comes down. I know they said that they really like him in right field, which kind of made me think that maybe they were trying to trade Dylan Carlson this year. I know there are a lot of rumors that he was rumored in a deal for Pablo Lopez with the Marlins. But Jordan Walker, I think to me is either right field or first base. And that means he either has to beat out Dylan Carlson or Juan Yepez, which Juan Yepez this time last year, or even a little bit later into the offseason, we were all raving about Juan Yepez. Everyone was excited for him. But I don't know. We'll have to see. I think they both have weird ways to get on the major league roster and stick on it. But I think Walker's the higher home run guy for sure than Beatty. I think he hits the ball in the air more, but they both hit the ball extremely hard.
Yeah, but and the other thing, guess what? And when in doubt, Sean, Brett Beatty's left-handed, Jordan Walker isn't.
Yep.
Jordan Walker's bigger. Jordan Walker has also proven to steal some bases in the minor leagues where Brett Beatty hasn't.
I didn't know.
22 stolen bases in Double-A last year. And the Cardinals, I know they're a little bit more impatient, but that impatience might lead to them pulling the trigger and just bringing up Jordan Walker as they're also competing. And unlike the Mets, the Cardinals are not shy about using their homegrown talent to compete.
Yeah,
they're not going to acquire veterans at a higher clip than compared to how the Mets have done their roster construction in the last couple of years with Steve Cohen on the helm there. I just think that's just too much pressure for the Mets to trust a guy like Brett Beatty, where I think the Cardinals are just going to come to their senses and say, you know what, it's Jordan Walker time. Yeah. So Juan Yepez, get back to the bench, or I don't know. I mean, we see with their outfield is just a revolving door. I make fun of Cardinal fans because they get attached to the Randall Gritchucks and the Tyler O'Neills of the world. Don't get attached. Harrison Bader's so awesome. Yeah, Harrison Bader's now a Yankee.
Harrison Bader's gone.
Lars Nootbaar and we have the best outfield with Lars Nootbaar.
Don't get me started on Nootbaar
and Dylan Carlson. And guess what? They're gonna get traded too. And maybe Juan Yepez takes over for one of them, or who else is on this team? And let me see. I'm just gonna double check who else is on the outfield. Moises Gomez is up next.
Oh, he's 35% strikeout rate in AAA. He hit a shit ton of home runs. Not gonna lie, but
the Tyler O'Neill of their AAA squad right now. Okay, that's all I see. Jordan Walker, you just mentioned, he could be outfield eligible, even though he's listed as a third baseman. Oscar Mercado, remember him?
Yeah, don't be Cleveland guy. He's a thing.
Don't be surprised. Chase Pinder is on the minor leagues as well for the
the A's guy.
Has to be.
No, that was Chad.
Oh, this is another.
Yeah, that was Chad Pinder.
That's another Pinder on this script.
I get it.
All right. Well,
Pinders in a pot.
Chase Pinder, great plate discipline. Will walk as much as he strikes out. At least he showed that in Double-A. 10 home runs, 5 stolen bases. You are now, and it's the Cardinals' way, man. They just bring up no name prospects, and all they do is compete and give it their all and keep the Cardinals afloat. And last but not least, Jordan Walker, I believe, is a much better prospect than Brett Beatty as well, even though I like both of them. But I love Jordan Walker, and I would love to see him, at the very worst, get traded to another team that will give him playing time. So, but the Cardinals would be absolutely stupid to let him go. Absolutely stupid. So that's my guy, Jordan Walker, number 28. And let's finish up with outfield. I'm just gonna go at number 75. I got Osvaldo Cabrera. I love the Yankee young players. Hear me out here. I love the Yankee players that are coming up soon. Peraza. I also like Osvaldo Peraza. I like Osvaldo Cabrera. If you're a Yankee, I am all for it. The problem with that is that there's such a thing as Yankee bias. There's so many Yankee fans out there. There's such a New York bias that you might lose out on these guys. But Osvaldo Peraza is supposed to be. I'm sorry, Osvaldo Cabrera is supposed to be.
Yeah, it's confusing, isn't it?
I know, I get him mixed up too. But he is on the bench for now. But you're telling me he can't beat out Aaron Hicks? And the counting stats.
I think that doesn't say as much about him as you think it does.
I honestly think it's just a loyalty and a money factor with Aaron Hicks, and just trying to showcase him so they can get rid of him and trade him to some sucker team out there. Or maybe spring training he's going to get exposed and he's going to get DFA'd, or he's going to get hurt again.
Yeah.
Which Osvaldo Cabrera, then he could just swoop in, and he did pretty well last season and limited playing time, I believe. I know I must have picked up him or the other guy, I can't remember who, but I remember
he was the one who played the most, so you probably picked him up.
Yeah, and
Peraza didn't play that much.
Okay, so Osvaldo Cabrera, I know the numbers don't say much, but a 111 WRC plus in limited playing time, you'll take that. He's projected to get to, according to ATC, 13 home runs and 10 stolen bases. Hey, you know how I love my power speed combinations, and again, it's in 407 plate appearances projections, but still counting stats, right? 13 home runs and 10 stolen bases from a new guy like him, a rookie, or he still qualifies as a rookie, right? No, he doesn't.
No. 171 plate appearances.
Either way, 23-year-old, 24-year-old by the time March rolls around. So, and in AAA, he did almost the exact same thing: 8 home runs, 10 stolen bases, with a decent on base percentage and some pop to his bat at AAA with the Yankees. So, I think he would be the better option than Aaron Hicks. So
it's just, I don't think he's a starter. I think he's one of those guys that's more valuable playing like off the bench, kind of plays everywhere. Mm-hmm. I had a guy in mind for the comp, and it left me.
Ben Zobrist.
No, because he doesn't walk enough. He strikes out too much. But it's like it is that the Zobrist type player, but probably shouldn't play as much as Zobrist did. I know he was pretty solid defensively out in the outfield. But yeah, it's a weird. He's a better real life player than he is a fantasy player, I think.
There's some transpositional skills here for Osvaldo Cabrera. I at number 75. Well, let's take a look. Who did I not pick? And by the way, my backup plans. Well, I'll wait for you to pick, but I do have backup plans in store here. But at number 75, I mean, Avisail Garcia. Do we want to go through that again?
Oh God, no.
Okay, well, in front it's Mark Canha. Do we want to go through that again? I don't want to.
Mark Canha wasn't that bad.
No, he wasn't good. I mean, he's just so boring to me.
He's a better real life player than fantasy player for sure.
I think Cabrera has a little bit more upside. That's intriguing to me.
I would take Canha over Cabrera.
No, Canha's too oatmeal for me. Tommy Pham, you want to?
I mean, granted, likely these guys aren't starting for you in your lineup. They're sitting on your bench in case somebody gets hurt.
That's what I mean. That's why I went deep in number 75, because I can.
But I trust Canha will get more playing time.
You want to deal with a Tommy Pham, Mark Canha combination in New York? They're talking about them sharing some playing time on the outfield. How about that?
That'll probably happen. Canha hits righties better than lefties, and Pham will play against some lefties either in left field or DH probably.
Yeah, I'm not dealing with that. You want to go through the Jared Kelenic experiment for another year? Trent Grisham, Brandon Marsh, those are all guys ahead of Osvaldo Cabrera. Avisail Garcia is behind them. You want to go through Johan Yepes after we just talked so bad about him in the last segment?
Akil Baddoo.
No, not anymore.
I can't help myself.
Alex Kirilloff, you trust the Twins are finally going to give him playing time, or that he
Well,
can?
no, his like they've tried. He's just he
He gets
keeps getting
exposed,
hurt.
huh?
No, he gets hurt. He gets hurt. Kirilloff and Larnach are they keep getting hurt.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, right. I heard about Larnach.
They
You want to go
both
through
had like the wrist or the thumb. Oh, it's bad news.
You want to go through Marcell Ozuna again?
No.
Bubba Thompson in Texas?
No.
You want to see how low of power S4E3 Ruiz
yes.
can give you in Oakland?
Yes, give me all of the S4E3 Ruiz this year.
You want to go through Miles Straw and his low batting average?
Give me Miles Straw again this year. I won't quit.
You want to see if Edward Alvarez can stay healthy and take advantage of the chances he might get with Kansas City Royals?
They're still not going to play him. I love Edward Alvarez. I remember I was on him for like an entire season, and they would not call him up. And
what about Diet Luis Robert and Oscar Colas?
No. I saw him play in person. I know the numbers are pretty good for what he did last year. I don't think he's that good. I think he's maybe like Cliff Floyd light. Like he might hit for a lot of power, but I don't think the defense is very good. The arm is great, but the defense is so. And he's got a big swing.
What about Alek Thomas in a crowded Arizona Diamondbacks outfield?
It's not that crowded after they traded Varsho.
He's listed in the minors right now.
Do they really? Who do they have as the starting outfield?
Off the top of my head, they got McCarthy. They got I'm sure Corbin Carroll's up there. And you got to play Lourdes Gurriel somewhere.
I thought they had him at DH. Let me go back and look.
But
oh my god, they do have Gurriel as the left fielder.
Come on, man. Now that may not happen. That it may end up that because I added him to my big spreadsheet because I'm anticipating that Alek Thomas will be back on the big team. But just the fact that, and then they still got Kyle Lewis, who they didn't just trade for just so they can put him back in the minors. At
some of their moves don't make like Longoria, like in a vacuum makes sense, but not when you have Gurriel and Kyle Lewis. I don't know. All those guys should be DHing.
Yeah, I have a feeling that these are all they're trying to do. Picking up trade chips for later in the season.
Maybe, that could work. That could work.
Or, just to show the fan base, hey, we got some veterans coming to help out the young guys, so buy some tickets. Please. But that's what I mean. At least with Cabrera, and if the counting stats are an indication, you got a 15-15 guy drafted this late, and all he has to do is overtake what's his face? Aaron Hicks. I mean, come on. I mean, it's a better road to getting regular playing time as opposed to the guys I just mentioned. You want to go through Max Kepler again? The Max Kepler?
Yes, I do.
The band of the shift.
I would very much like Max Kepler. I was surprised that the Marlins didn't try and get Arias and Kepler in that deal.
Maybe make Joey Adele good again.
Oh no, that's not a thing.
Nolan Jones with the Colorado Rockies, and maybe
I am going to have a little bit of Nolan Jones just because. Yeah, that would be like wild. Like if he might bat 210, but he might be Chris Davis.
I was gonna say with his 30% strikeout rate.
Yeah, but he might hit 40 like home runs. Like that might be a thing.
What about Nick Senzel versus Osvaldo Cabrera?
Nick Senzel's still alive.
Yeah, and he's gonna start for the Reds apparently.
Oh God.
Anyway,
until he stubs his toe.
Who's your outfielder?
Mine is another red linked player. I'm picking Jesse Winker. Had the down year last year, but really not much had changed aside, in my opinion, than he was playing hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Had a bad neck, adjusted, or it hurt his quality of contact. But if you look in terms of the line drive percentage was still good, albeit maybe a little bit low. Whiff rates were still all the same. He didn't chase anymore. He had roughly the same amount of contact. He had his operation. He got his trade out of Seattle, which we know is terrible for left-handed power. He goes to Milwaukee, which we know is pretty good for power, especially left-handed. I want to say he's had pretty good numbers in his career at Miller Park. I would need to go back and look again. But really excited for Jesse Winker this year.
I've always liked Jesse Winker, but I am concerned about the injuries. But hopefully, this is a new and improved Jesse Winker who can stay healthy. But the Brewers they have a pretty terrible track record of player development and keeping their big name players healthy.
I think the thing with him is now the expectation is he's just going to DH.
That'd be good for him. But you also,
that'll be the best thing for him.
The problem there is that you also need to DH Christian Yelich because he can't. Those injuries are taking a toll. They've started to add up, and Christian Yelich is a shell of his former self at this point. He is 31 years old, so he's going to.
He played in 154 games.
Yeah, but
he hit the shit out of the ball.
And it didn't result to anything. But unless you're going to tell me, well, the shift. But I guess that's. Just
that could be a thing. Like
that could be a thing for everybody. Yeah. That's the problem. But yeah, Christian Yelich has looked like a very, very old. He looks like a 20-year-old veteran out there sometimes. But yeah, it's a step in the right direction, but only 14 home runs and 19 stolen bases. I mean, that's what we're trying to get out of Osvaldo Cabrera, not out of former MVP Christian Yelich, who is supposed to be the face of that franchise. So I'm just saying, I mean, Luis Urias can't stay healthy, and he's with the Brewers as well, and that's a guy that we both like a lot. Like one day he's gonna get the playing time. We talk about the lack of player. We talk about the lack of player development. Bryce Turing is finally going to get a chance after what it seems seemingly forever we were waiting for him to come up. And your favorite guy of all time, Keston Hiura.
Yep. And the thing that doesn't make sense is they have Keston Hiura in a platoon. Keston Hiura crushes right-handers, not left-handers. Figure it out, Milwaukee. Trade him. Do something, goddammit.
I mean, let's face it, man. The Milwaukee, their forte is not the hitting. It's the pitching. Where they seemingly
I still really like their lineup, and I think it's only going to get better when guys like Sal Frelick come up. Forget Abraham Toro is on that roster too. Right now they have him in the minors. I still think he ends up somewhere on that bench. Granted, them signing Brian Anderson, longtime Miami Marlin, makes that a little bit harder. But when like Sal Frelick and Joey Weimer come up, they're still not on the 40-man, which might delay their arrival to past opening day. I think that outfield is going to be really talented. I think the lineup's going to be very dangerous. It's going to be powerful and athletic. It's a very interesting lineup that they're building out there in Milwaukee.
Wait, they traded away S4E3 Ruiz?
Yeah, he's on the A's.
Yeah, I know. I just realized that. What was the deal?
They got back William Contreras, and that was in the Sean Murphy deal.
Oh wow!
That was a 3-team deal. Milwaukee gave up was Ruiz and a reliever, and they got William Contreras. It was wild. Like it was the robbery of the century. They had no part in that deal. They shouldn't have even been involved. But
and the A's get a cheap.
Yeah, the A's get Ruiz and a relief pitcher and a couple of starting pitchers from Atlanta.
Listen, I am intrigued by Ruiz, but it's like a thing I've been saying for a long time, especially with these cheap-ass teams, that they purposely get these punch and Judy hitters, these slapdick hitters, because they know that they're cheaper. And Ruiz is no exception. Oh, but we're going to do contact and defense and we're going to steal bases. No, you just don't want to spend any money, which did you see that graphic from earlier? Back in 2002 during the Moneyball era?
Yeah, the A's, they had a higher payroll in 2002 than they did now.
In 2022 or 2023.
Well, it's like their payroll now sitting at $27 million. The Mets alone are paying James McCann and Robinson Cano $29 million just to be elsewhere.
And that's $27 million. That's despite the fact that inflation has to take. You got to account for inflation, and all that
rise in the minimum salary for players.
Exactly. TV contracts being outrageous for everybody except for the Oakland Athletics, apparently. So, who you know what? At this point, I will not be surprised if they get contracted or relegated or whatever that term is. I'm sorry, you say something?
No.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to leave you with this, Sean. The backup plans in case you would have picked Osvaldo Cabrera. Harrison Bader, Lars Nootbaar, and Dylan Carlson all of them associated with,
all the Cardinals guys,
except for Bader. But yeah, all the that's
he's a former Card.
Yeah, exactly. Former Card. Anybody associated with the Cardinals. So Mike Harvey and Raheel Kakalawata, who I've been bashing the Cardinals. They're both Cardinal fans. I've been bashing the Cardinals and the Cardinal fans and the Cardinal players. There, I said something nice about the Cardinals this week. So there you go. All right, Sean. Well, that went a lot longer than I expected, but
have fun getting yelled at.
I will get yelled at. I've been getting yelled at all week, man. It's like it's January and February. This is my peak baseball concentration months.
Yes.
So it's just like the Peanuts, the cartoon where the adults are talking to take out the trash. What's Penelope doing? Where's the cat? I don't know. I'm busy. I'm busy trying to figure out if Wilmer Barneveld can be added to my prospect list for this year.
Of course.
Anyway, last words from you, Sean. Go ahead.
I am just browsing Fangraphs, and I want to say, Justin Mason, I am ashamed that in your outfield rankings you have TJ Friedel and Randall Grichuk, among some other sketchy names, ranked higher than Jeff McNeil and Brandon Nimmo.
You know what that is, Sean? From a guy who does his own rankings every winter. That just sounds like fatigue on his end. Like you're ranking these guys, and all of a sudden, like, oh man, these guys, they all look like jumbo. They all look like
it is very funny. Brandon Nimmo and Brendan Donovan are 54 and 55. So just like you were saying, they are literally back to back right there.
I'm telling you, sometimes that happens. So you're ranking these players like Brendan Donovan, Brendan Nimmo. Oh, you know what? These guys are all the same. Whatever. Let's just.
Why does he have?
I gotta move him.
I'm just talking to myself here. You go ahead and wrap us up.
No, that was it. Justin Mason probably is like, I gotta get going. I gotta move on and just move on to the next player and put him on my list and keep interrupting Paul Sporer on his podcast. I love that podcast, but it's
a Sleeper in the Bust.
Thank you, Sleeper in the Bus. But man, it's like Paul Sporer will have a good point to make, and then Justin Mason, that's just not a good pick. It's such a stupid pick. Well, why would you do that?
Why would you do it?
I just don't like it. And then Paul Sporer, because he's so soft-spoken. Well, the reason that we have to go that way, it doesn't make any sense. I'm just saying, it's so stupid.
Hey, they're the yin and the yang. They're the yin and the yang.
The Sean and the Felipe of their podcast.
There you go.
All right. Well, speaking of which, that's Sean. I am Felipe. We'll see you all next time.
Adios, guys.
See you.